All of the Los Angeles Rams' hard work over the past few years paid off in a big way in 2021 as they finally reached the top of the mountain. They came close back in 2018 when the Jared Goff and Todd Gurley-led Rams made it to the Super Bowl and failed to win as they put up just 3 points in the big game. They went back to the drawing board, made a monumental trade to acquire Matthew Stafford, and all of the gambles the Rams have made over the past 6 or 7 years now, 2021 made it all worth it. But the NFL has moved on, and they're not here to celebrate the Rams title from last year anymore. 31 other NFL teams are gunning for their chance to be called Super Bowl champions, and in today's video, we're going to break down the 2022 Rams and the outlook for their season. There is a lot to dive into and more to say than Aaron Donald will have a good year, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by glancing at the Rams' schedule, and in a league where there's continuous comparisons and rankings and disagreements about a lot of things, one thing I think we can all agree on is how much we are looking forward to the Bills-Rams opener. Josh Allen versus Matt Stafford, McDermott versus McVay, and I don't think it would surprise anyone if this was a possible Super Bowl preview. This will be a good measuring stick for both teams, but aside from this game, the Rams play Atlanta in Week 2, which I do think this will be a win for them, but then have back-to-back divisional road games of at Arizona and at San Francisco, and the San Fran game is very notable, not just because it's the 49ers, but because the Rams played them in San Fran last year on Monday night and got smoked by 21 points. Yes, the Rams eventually won the Super Bowl and eventually beat them in the NFC Championship game and did ultimately get the last laugh, and congratulations to them for doing so, but this is also a team that got beat by double digits 3 times last year. This is also a team that has an absolute gauntlet of opponents after their Week 7 bye, and aside from the 2 games against Seattle, every one of these teams has a very good shot of not only making the playoffs, but making a deep postseason run. You can legitimately make a case for all of these teams, and obviously they all won't because only one team can win the Super Bowl, but this stretch of at Tampa, at New Orleans, and at Kansas City in 3 of 4 games, while the other is home against the Cardinals, is brutal. This is a large reason why I worry about the 2022 Los Angeles Rams, and I do think losing Von Miller will be a bigger loss than a lot of people realize, especially early on. Of course, Aaron Donald will naturally cover up some of that loss and play out of his mind, like he always does, but at some point, someone else will have to step up and make a play. Down the stretch of the 2021 season, Von Miller contributed significantly with 4 sacks in the postseason, including 2 in the Super Bowl win over the Bengals, and had 6 quarterback hits in 4 postseason games as well. While the Aaron Donald play at the end of the Super Bowl is naturally remembered, and it should be as well, please don't think I'm saying let's discount this play by one of the best defensive players ever. Someone is going to have to step up and be the Robin to what is obviously Aaron Donald's Batman. And there are a few things I worry about with the offense, and these aren't major concerns, but they are noteworthy. And the first is how Joe Noteboom is going to play at left tackle after the retirement of Andrew Whitworth. With how much the Rams trade first-round picks and how much they focus on getting other players to upgrade their roster, and it works, by the way, look at Matt Stafford and Jalen Ramsey for example, I don't think they get enough credit for finding players later in the draft with the limited draft capital they have, like David Edwards, who will start at guard this year, that they found in the 5th round of the 2019 draft, or Coleman Shelton, who will start at right guard this year, that they found as an undrafted free agent that was cut from 2 previous NFC West teams. But replacing a Pro Bowl tackle and a leader in the locker room and a leader in the community, and at one of the most important positions in not just football but in sports, is a hell of a lot more difficult than finding a starting right guard. And that's one of the biggest things I worry about, is protecting Matt Stafford's blind side. He is a very tough player and has played through his fair share of injuries throughout his career, but this is something worth keeping an eye on throughout the course of the season, is the left tackle play for the Rams. Because going back to that schedule, there are a ton of good pass rushers the Rams, and everyone else for that matter, are going to have to deal with on a week-to-week basis, and that's when Noteboom and the rest of the offensive line are going to have to step up. I also want to discuss the receiver situation in LA, as I love Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and Van Jefferson as a trio, and there is no disrespect intended here, but I don't think Cooper will have the year he had in 2021. Remember, he had 145 receptions for over 1,900 yards and 16 touchdowns and won the Triple Crown. In a lot of ways, that was a generational season, and to expect that again to me is a little far-fetched, and this is where I think both Allen Robinson and especially Van Jefferson will step up. So Cooper on paper will have a regression year, which is kind of natural when you finish with the second most receiving yards of all time in a single season, as that is not sustainable on a year-to-year basis, but his teammates and especially Van Jefferson will pick up the numbers. The Rams also finished 26th in rushing in the NFL last season, and quite frankly, if they want to have the success they did last year, I personally think this has to improve. Not just because of the old adage of running the football well and playing good defense, but because of what will gradually happen over the course of the season. Teams will essentially sell out to stop the pass and force the Rams to beat them with their run game, and this is a team that finished 25th in rushing yards in 2021 and finished 26th in yards per carry. I don't doubt Sean McVay or worry that he won't be able to adjust, and ultimately I am a Cam Akers believer, but I do think at some point we will see defenses sit back and wait for the run to go right at them and for them to essentially invite the run game. And one player from the Rams Super Bowl roster that is no longer a part of the team is punter Johnny Hekker. I'm sure you guys didn't think a punter would be in a team preview, but in the Super Bowl, Hekker punted the ball 6 times, and 2 of those punts pinned Joe Burrow and company inside their own 20-yard line, and in neither of those drives did the Bengals score. Hekker played his part very well over the course of his time as both a St. Louis and a Los Angeles Ram, and another example of this was the divisional round game against the Bucs, as he had 4 punts over the course of the game, and one of those occurred when the Rams were up 20-3, then Hekker pinned Tom Brady and the Bucs to their own 5-yard line. They went 3 and out, and the Rams had a nice punt return, and eventually were up 27-3, due in no small part to the original punt which pinned Tampa deep in their own territory. And little things like this add up to what was eventually a Super Bowl championship for the Rams. Guys doing their parts and playing their parts and owning their roles, which was something Johnny very successfully did. It's insanely difficult to win a singular championship because it requires 53 guys to not just buy in, but to all perform their job at a high level. And field position, as simple as it sounds, is a huge part of football. That's a big reason why analytics are taking over, as deep in red zones, teams would rather go for 7 points, and if they don't get a touchdown, they will pin the other team deep in their own territory, forcing them to go 85 or 90 plus yards to get 6 points. And how this all ties into the 2022 Rams season and team preview is the starters you may not know too much about, like the Nick Scotts of the world at safety. The aforementioned David Edwards, Coleman Sheltons, and Joe Notebooms are going to have to step up in 2022 in big ways. With the Rams committed to a bunch of top players already on their roster, like Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Matt Stafford, and everyone else, very rarely do you see them as a team that makes 4 or 5 moves in an offseason to gradually get better over the course of a few months. It's usually one big move right then and there, and you know what the Rams' game plan is immediately ensuing the said move. But they signed Bobby Wagner from the division rival Seahawks this year, and I do think that will prove to be a good move for this franchise. Matt Stafford also finished 2021 with over 4,800 yards and 41 passing touchdowns, which was third in the NFL in yards and second in touchdowns. I don't think he will finish that high this year, not because he's not capable, but I do think a few of the AFC West quarterbacks are going to stockpile statistics given who they play for a large portion of their schedule, and I think those are going to be generally 34-31 games. I personally don't think the Rams will go back-to-back, as there's so many good NFL teams now, and there is a reason we haven't had a repeat Super Bowl champion in nearly 20 years. If the Rams prove me wrong, I will be the first to admit it, but I think this team will ultimately lose in either the divisional round of the playoffs or the NFC Championship game. Again, if they prove me wrong and Matt Stafford goes back-to-back, I'd more than welcome it. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world and help tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. Please join the Discord as well. The link is in the description, and until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.